Hey guys, and welcome to another season of the Unpackers. And this start of the season will be kind of strange because Bart is still on a holiday, but I'm luckily accompanied by my fellow companion Yip. Yip,
Yes.
welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here once again.
And great to have a guest that is well known on Twitch, that's well known in the space, Follis. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing right now?
Doing very well. Yeah, excited to
You
be
well?
here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. First, the questions we all need to ask about you, yourself, a little background information of our guest. So, can you please tell us, before you went into crypto space, what were you up to?
What was I up to? Well, I've only been in crypto for 3-4 years now, 3.5 years to be exact. Before that, I was in law. I'm actually a qualified lawyer, and that is it's a very different world. Let me tell you, very different pace of life.
Yeah.
But it was good. I was telling Yip and on the way over here, like I spent the best part of 10 years actually studying, practicing, and qualifying to be a lawyer, and
Yeah.
then got to the finish line and did it for about 14 months and decided I hated it. So
What happened?
luckily, well, I mean, I guess it's just not for everyone. You're kind of, I mean, you're in an office every day. I mean, it couldn't be more different from my lifestyle now.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in an office every day. You're wearing a suit and tie every day.
Yeah.
You're doing a lot of work, but it's for other people. And I think that's one of the, let's say, the main benefits of my current workflow is that I'm doing arguably more work now than ever before. But it's all stuff for me. It's all my projects. It's all furthering stuff that I want to push. So I think there's a pace differential there that I really enjoy. And as I said to Yip, we were chatting a little bit on the way over here. It doesn't feel like work at all. If you can work a 14-hour day in crypto, but
Yeah,
if
sure.
it's stuff you're enjoying, you know,
Feels like a 6 hour
yeah,
work.
you
Yeah,
don't feel
yeah.
it. You don't feel it.
But just from my understanding, and I guess a lot of people who are listening are also very curious. There's a huge difference between a lawyer and ending up in the crypto space. Where
We're a
where
lot more degen, I think.
where did that happen?
Less credentials.
What's the moment you thought, well, let's forget about being a lawyer. Let's get into crypto.
There wasn't a moment. It was a gradual thing, I guess. I mean, I guess it was the perfect storm for me to make that transition. In many ways, I wasn't enjoying what I was doing day to day. It was one of those things. I'm sure many people listening have this, where Sunday evening would come and I would go, oh, I can't believe I have to face another work week. And I would get like almost like, I'm not an anxious dude, but I would get what I believe is the equivalent of anxiety.
Yeah.
I would hate it. And at the same time, a buddy of mine had gotten into stock trading, and he was like, "Oh man, like there's this stocks and like candlesticks, and like you go on Twitter, everyone has an opinion." He was like, "You should check this thing out." I was like, "Okay," and I put it off for ages. I put it off for months and months and months, and then eventually he was like, "No, you really got to check it out." So I put like a few €100 into a stock account in like January 2021, took some trades and like lost everything, of course. But it gave me a little bit of exposure to the trading investment side of the world, which I had before that. It was, I mean, funnily enough, the law that I was practicing was investment fund law. But
Oh,
it's
really?
yeah, it's like all back end stuff. You're doing all the documents. You don't actually. There's none of the actual, let's say, front end of. You're never actually looking at the investments as. You're looking at them as legal vehicles, and
Yeah,
that's
right.
all.
Yeah.
So I really had no exposure to actual trading or anything like that, but that gave me a little bit of exposure. And then I kind of looked at other markets, and kind of by about, let's say, late spring of that year, that's still 2021, everyone's talking about, crypto. It was a bull run, BTC passed 40K, BTC passed 50K, BTC's coming towards 60K. So I was like, okay, maybe I need to start paying more attention to crypto, because this thing was doing, and
Right.
altcoins were going nuts. And it was just around the time of Doge Mania, so I was one of the many retail traders pulled in by all of that. So I got involved, and yeah, very quickly made some newbie gains, right? Some beginner gains.
Right.
Put some money into crypto, doubled that money, and I was like, okay, all right, there's something here. Proceeded to put a lot more money in. I'm talking like, probably 40 or 50K, which was most of my net worth at the time. It was a lot of money for me.
Yeah.
and then the 2021 crash happened. And I lost about half of it. I was like, okay, gotta brush myself off. I'll be okay. Literally that summer, I discovered leverage trading. So before that, I'd just been doing spot.
Yeah.
And you can guess how the story ended. The story ended with end of the summer, let's say around that time.
Yeah.
And I was down bad. I would say like 80% of the money I'd put into crypto was just gone.
Yeah.
Vanished.
Vanished into thin air. And I was kind of like, okay, it's decision time now. I either call it quits, go back to my law job. I mean, like I was in a, like my law job was like a 6-figure salary. It was a good job, you know. It was like, you know, a lot of people would give an arm and a leg to do what I was doing. Or I'd be a stubborn, I don't want to swear on camera, but be a stubborn, you know what.
Yeah.
And I double down and I just teach myself how to trade and push myself through. And, you know, needless to say, I'm sitting here today, so I did pick the second option.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I did, because that was pretty much, I mean, I don't want to talk about journeys in terms of, like, it's all very dynamic and things are moving. But, I mean, that was definitely a low point. It really felt like I was in a hole and I was kind of trying to figure out how do I get out of this. But, yeah, things just started moving in the right direction. Like, even, you know, once I really applied myself and started being, you know, actually teaching myself risk management was one of the first things. Like, once I started realizing, you know, you can't just bet the farm on, and I wasn't even taking trades. Like, it's so funny looking back on what I was doing back then. I was just like, something would pump and I would be like, okay, time to long. You know? Just like a monkey, you know, longing green candles. And it was just, I didn't know what I was doing. So it's no wonder that I lost money. But yeah, really like knuckled down. I would say that the following year was basically the hardest that I've ever worked in my life. I really applied myself and I really kind of pushed it until I got to a place where all of a sudden I was, you know, I was profitable. And then I was consistently profitable. And then I was even more consistently profitable. I would say, yeah, so probably a year and a half or a little bit less than that after I first started trading, I was kind of at a point where I was able to turn a decent profit on a week-to-week basis, on a month-to-month basis. And actually, I was, as I was just telling you about, that was at the point at which I went full-time, because my law career was, I was so unhappy with it, and I was enjoying it so I wasn't enjoying it at all.
No.
I was enjoying the crypto thing so much, and it really seemed like the law thing was doing this and the crypto thing was just doing this, and it was just the perfect moment. And I was getting to the point where I was so heavily, like, I was so focused on crypto, and I was, you know, the social media, my brand was growing, my social media accounts were growing. I wanted to get into streaming, I wanted to get into content creation. And the law thing was like, I felt like I was not only that, but I was doing a bad job.
Yeah.
And I hate doing a bad job. I'm like a guy, like, if I do something, I want to do it extremely well. That's just the way I always am. I hated the way I was doing a subpar job in my law office. And I didn't want to disappoint people. So I actually just got to a point where, like, one day I was like, I said it to my girlfriend on like a Monday, I was like, I think I'm going to hand in my notice tomorrow. And she was like, what? I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do it. And I did it. And yeah, man, I never looked back, honest to God. And that was 3.5. Oh, sorry. Yeah. 3 years ago.
Yeah. So let's cut your story into some pieces. You just gave a glance of how you're working right now. Let's take a step back, because I'm really curious about that. You had a good job. You started to like crypto, and you made that decision. That's your decision. But I guess there's a lot of people around you, you speak with, drink beer with, whatever, that have an opinion once you made that step. Can you elaborate on that one?
On what their opinions was?
Yeah. How did they? What did they think about your choice?
Yeah. Well, I was fortunate in that I had unwavering support from the first person was my girlfriend, who is still my girlfriend. She was
went good.
Yeah. I mean, you know, she was like, you do whatever feels right for you, and I'll back you 100% of the way. So that was a huge. I understand not a lot of guys are maybe in that same position where they have support from the person they're closest with. So that was a huge weight off my shoulders, that she had my back no matter what I was going to do.
Right.
My parents, my dad, who's no longer with us, sadly, but at the time he was extremely supportive. He said, you know, you do what, if it feels right to you, you do what's right. He had a good understanding of what I was doing previously and what I was going to do. He had a good understanding of law. He had a good understanding of finance. My mum, God bless her, has no idea of either. Really, she still doesn't really know what I do.
Which is fine.
Sounds
Which is
like my
completely
mom.
fine, yeah. But she's extreme maximum support.
Right,
And,
right.
you know, maybe she'll watch this afterwards and laugh because it's absolutely true. So you know, she even to this day she loves that I'm happy doing what I do, but I could not possibly even trying to explain to her what the blockchain is would be trying to, you know, speak Chinese to someone who you know is from South America or something like that. It just wouldn't work. But that's fine. So I was lucky in that I had good support from my family and friends. I will say that something I felt acutely for the first year or so of after I went full time was, and this wasn't put on me by anyone. I did feel a pressure to succeed to make it work, because especially for my parents, you know, they had spent money and time and they had sent me to, you know, some of the best universities in the world, and they had financed my master's in particular, which was a lot of money. And now I get to the point where they thought I was going to be, and then I do a U-turn.
Yeah.
So, you know, I didn't want to just try and then crash out after a few months and be like, well, I'm glad I gave it the old college try. I wanted to do it right. I wanted to be successful in it. And to be honest, like, I don't want this to come across as egotistical, because you know, it isn't. I don't think I am an egotistical guy. But I genuinely believed that if I put my mind to it and applied myself properly, that I would succeed. And it's still something I believe today. I think there are very few scenarios where I will doubt myself in a kind of a long-term way. I'll say, well, that's actually not something that I can do. If I really apply myself and really put in the work and really say, this is something that I want to succeed at, usually I find that I can make a way. I can find a way to succeed in that. And you know, I really felt that crypto was going to be that thing where if I really applied myself and put in the work and put in the hours and put in the grind, that I would succeed. And thankfully, that has come to fruition. So I guess that's something as well, maybe that I was fortunate to have, is I don't want to say like an unwavering self-belief. I don't want to turn it into some kind of cliche or some kind of aphorism. But there was a core of self-belief there that I was able to fall back on even when I was kind of doubting myself.
Yeah,
I think that's nice to have. And again, I really hope that doesn't come across. I'm not trying to sound egotistic. It genuinely is just something that I've had for a while. I think that helped me a lot. So when I talk about having support from my family and friends, I also had support from myself, which I think is it's something maybe that not everyone has, right? Because
I think it's a trait that people that succeed tend to have that kind of trait, and I don't think it's egotistical at all. I think it's something that, especially if you make like the switch from a lawyer to full-time trader, whatever. I made like the switch from a professional football player to full-time trader. Yeah. So I really hear what you're saying, also with the support of the family, and a lot of people always tend to ask me as well, like, what did your family think about it? Because they invest a lot of time and effort into your career when you were still younger and all that kind of stuff. But the same goes for me. Like, I also had the thing where I strongly believe that if I just went full-time into trading, investing, and building the community and building the personal brand, that no matter what, I didn't have a single doubt in my mind. Never, ever did I have a doubt in my mind. Whereas with playing football, I always had a lot of doubts. And that kind of feeling, I think, is something that you need in order to make it happen and to succeed. So I don't think it's egotistical at all. And I know you a little bit. I know that you're not an egotistical person. I don't think I am as well. But I think if you do want to make that switch or go full-time into anything or just do anything in life in general, you need to have that self-belief. Even if no one else believes in you, you always need to have that self-belief in order to succeed, I think. So I really recognize myself in
I guess
that
we have to be honest also, is that the crypto space is not around that long. And for those who started in crypto, like yourself, there wasn't much information at hand at that time. There weren't a lot of people, I guess. Please correct me if I'm going wrong.
2021 was probably a little bit different. I was probably coming in at a peak of that. I would say maybe people starting off a little bit earlier. I actually, I hope this is the point you were going to make, because I cut in a little bit there. But I do think actually we're in an age where we're very fortunate, where actually there's so much information available at our fingertips for free.
Right. Right.
Like you really, if you have the dedication and the time, you can teach yourself how to become a proficient trader.
Right.
100%.
Just through like stuff you find online for free, and then like a little bit of trial and error, you know, on your demo account or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think it's often funny. Like I think about like John Bollinger and the boys, you know, like back in the 70s and 80s with ruler, like they were printing out charts of, you know, of like silver, you know, like silver over a 3 year, and they were like plotting lines on it and with their rulers, and that's where, you know, the Bollinger Band comes from. Was a calculation, was a maths-based calculation that he was doing on his charts, and he was plotting it by hand, maybe with the assistance of a calculator. I'm not sure what was available back then, but I think it's very funny now. Like we just take it for granted that we click 2 buttons and we have the Bollinger Bands on our charts.
Very much true, yeah.
Right. We take. I think TradingView is such a. It's if you were to actually step back and look at TradingView for what it is, we have all of the data from basically every single market in the world at our fingertips. Right?
Yeah.
And all of the tools as well.
All of the tools to view like any number of different combinations of data sets, right? And that's just the data, and then all of these resources and people, you know, sharing things and sharing opinions and sharing methods of learning and methods of comprehension online, on Twitter, on Twitch, on YouTube for free.
Right.
It's just
Right.
It's almost it boggles the mind. We're extremely fortunate to have come into this market when we did, or to come into, like, I'm almost talking about trading and finance in a more macro sense. When we did, because we have this capacity to self-learn, to be autodidacts, right? Which is something that I don't think everyone had that possibility, you know, previously. And you look at, I think, you know, something that was very noticeable in, you know, like my parents' generation is like they did one thing, you know, they went to school, they learned one thing, and they did that thing for 40 years, and they retired, right?
That was the trick.
Right? And then, you know, sometimes you're talking to that generation about, you know, your career, and you're saying, oh, well, I'm actually going to do this, and then I'm going to pivot into this, and then actually I might go into this. Like I have so many friends who are like, you know, hotel managers, and then they did like a post-grad in like childcare, and now they're running an elementary school, you know, something like that. It's just like all of these career pivots are made possible by the wealth of information at our fingertips, you know, which is kind of, it's like, it's the internet, isn't it? But I think specifically when that relates, or when, as pertains to crypto, like CT it gets a lot of shit. I mean, it is, sorry, I don't mean to swear. I'm trying, because my mum will watch this. But CT gets a lot of flack, right? You know, people say it's a toxic space, and it is. It's a weird space that has a weird energy. But if you can like filter that out, like shuttle that to one side, it actually is. It is one of the best resources that any trader who wants to get better can avail of, right? And that extends to social media in general. I'm not familiar with TikTok or Instagram, but let's say like YouTube. Like, I mean, you put out YouTube content. Lots of educators put out free content daily, right? Yeah. And I'm not just talking about like, you know, current views in the markets. I'm talking about like more deeper, like fundamental ways of trading, of analyzing it. And you know, there's so much information that the question isn't where do I find it, it's how do I filter out what I actually need to take in. So it's a uniquely fortunate position. New industry, just like, you know, crypto is what, 15 years old at the very best. The futures industry is less, like 9 years old, 2015, something like that. And we're just coming into it. Let's say, I mean, people always say like, oh, you're not early, but I think if you're looking at crypto, if you're looking at crypto in a longer time frame, I really think that's a short-sighted view. Because people were saying, when I joined crypto in 2021, that was the thing. You're not early.
No.
But people are still saying that in 2024. Oh, you're not early to the guys who joined, you know, a few months ago. And they'll still be saying that in 2030. You know, but it's actually, I think, if you think that blockchain technology, I mean, irrespective, it doesn't matter if you think that, like, you know, Dogecoin will be the future of finance, right? Irrespective of that view, you know, I think blockchain technology is here to stay. I actually did my master's dissertation on the regulation of blockchain technology, like back in 2014. Should have bought some Bitcoin, shouldn't I? Back then, I remember it was $1,200 back then. Should have bought a bit. Would have been nice. But yeah, I remember thinking my takeaway from that was, it doesn't matter what coins come out of this nascent industry.
Right.
Blockchain technology is here to stay, and it's going to change. It's going to change the internet from a kind of a fundamental, like how we engage with the internet, how we engage with transactional technology, right? Because that's this whole idea of removing the intermediary, right?
Right.
I mean, this
Right.
whole like traditional finance, like the banking system is based on the fact that if you want to exchange money with your neighbor, it's very difficult to do it in a fair, equitable way where you can ensure that
Yeah,
everything's
true.
going to go according to plan. A bank acts as a trusted intermediary, and it kind of removes a lot of that doubt. But what if that was baked into the technology of the transfer itself? That's what the blockchain is, right? That's what the blockchain offers. Removes the intermediary, but now the rules to ensure that
Right.
transfer is
Right.
fair
Yeah.
are baked into the tech. And I think that is something that people, you can, when you're trading like Shiba Inu on the 1 minute chart, you're kind of like, you can lose sight of the bigger picture.
Right.
But I think
Right.
crypto is here to stay, and I think we are early.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna deepen the blockchain. I'm a tech guy, so and some guys call me a nerd. That's fine. I really love blockchain, but I'm glad you're talking about blockchain also in combination with crypto, because crypto is just one solution on the blockchain, and there are many more solutions. That's good for the understanding for a lot of people, I guess. But besides that, you mentioned one thing that the guy next to you is really a huge fan of. You called it risk management, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, just for fun, can you tell us how did once you applied risk management, what did it change for you?
It stopped me losing money. It stopped me hemorrhaging money
Bottom line.
when I needed to be in a capital preservation mode.
Yeah.
Particularly, like, isn't there that saying, like, traders should be risk managers first and
Yeah.
traders second, right?
Right. Right.
And I think it's applicable no matter what stage of your training journey you are, but especially at the start, because at the start
You're gonna lose money.
you're going to lose money. The expectancy is that you're going to lose. It's trial and error, basically.
Yeah.
You're figuring out what works, what doesn't work. You're learning how to trade. So if you're learning how to trade, it doesn't make any sense to be actually. I mean, something I always say, right, is I don't like paper trading. I don't think that paper trading is
Works.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good. It may be at the very beginning, but if you're a beginner trader and you want to like take the next step, you want to
Right.
advance.
Right.
You need to get used to the feeling of having money on the line. Now, this is an interesting thing because you actually get that feeling. It doesn't matter if you have 50 cents, $50, or 5K on the line. Now, of course, it's going to be a gradient, but you still get that feeling of having money on the line, right? And that's something that you actually, as a trader, you need to get used to. Right, you need to get familiar with the feeling of losing money and making money, and that can be cents, it can be dollars, it can be it can be anything. But paper doesn't give you that. A paper trade, I've seen so many guys do paper trading for weeks or months, and then they go, "Oh, I'm a natural. I know how to do this," and then they take it into the arena, they put real money on the line, and it's loss after loss after loss. Oh, and then they get a win, but they close it super early. They get like 1 or, and then they're like, but then they're at the end of the month, they're like, oh, I'm down 10 or, my account's down 5%. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Because this is the first time that you've traded with actual money on the line, right? And it's a completely different thing to feel that risk, right? To feel the little bit of, oh, it's getting too close to my invalidation there.
Right.
To feel that, but you don't get that feeling with paper. It's just your ego. No one really cares about that.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
But when there's money on the line, you feel that. And I think that's something you need to get used to as a newer trader. So that's something I highly recommend, is to just make sure there is a little bit of money on the line. It doesn't need to be a lot. In fact, it shouldn't be a lot. But it needs to be something that you feel the twang. That's why you feel something, right?
Right.
But then, just as a general point, the risk management thing is it cannot be oversold to newer traders. You really need it. Like there's a reason why so many traders aren't around. Like, there's a reason. I started trading with so many guys that just aren't around now. They just drop off their their Twitter account goes quiet.
Right.
They're just not around now, right? And I think it's one of the one of the things you just kind of get used to in this game is that people aren't going to be around forever, right? And I see it in my Discord community, Chroma, as well.
Mm-hmm.
We have guys they'll get super active and they'll be around for we call them like almost like a mini cycle, and then 3 months later they're just kind of gone, they're just kind of quieting down, and then their membership expires, and then they're just gone. And and you check out their Twitter a few months later and they haven't posted in 5 months. And I just think like those guys, they something happens, they get wrecked, they bow out, they lose interest, whatever it is.
Right.
But the grim reality is that isn't it something like only 10% of traders are very profitable, and only 10% are break even, and the remaining 80% are losing money.
Probably think it's less, actually.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think about when I think about the retention rates in the industry I used to be in law. Right? If you're a barrister in Ireland, the rate of people, the percentage of people still working as barristers after they qualify is something like 20% or 25%, which is extremely low.
Yeah.
When you actually think about it, that kind of makes sense. Like, sorry, it's after 5 years. So after 5 years. So I always think about that. I think you could probably equivocate that in other kind of high level industries that are performance based. So being a barrister, you're presenting in court, you're defending clients, you're taking the lead on cases. It's performance based, and I think crypto trading is very much like that as well. It's performance based. Unfortunately, if you don't perform well, you won't be around. You won't be around to continue to try and perform well. You need to perform at some point. It's performance based. I think a lot of those performance based vocations, there is a high dropout rate because people can't perform at a high level consistently for not just weeks, not just months, for years at a time, right? And I think when I think about trading in that sense, you kind of think about it like, okay, trading isn't about making a quick dollar tomorrow. It's not about making a quick buck here and there.
Yeah.
Trading is about staying in the game for the next 10 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
Trading is about longevity, right? It's it's the cliche. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think so much of that is just it's playing defense, right? You talk about American football. You're playing defense. You're playing offense. Two sides of the ball, right? It's the exact same thing, man. You have to play. There are certain times where you just sit back and you got to play defense, and there are certain times where you got to
sit on your hands. I'll say.
And I think so much of just being a trader that is going to be around is just capital preservation, risk management, and trying to stay in the game, right?
Right.
And if you have bad risk management, if you don't know how to preserve your capital, especially when the market conditions aren't giving you much to work with, you're just going to be one of those guys. You're not going to be around in 6 months' time.
Yeah.
You're going to be one of those accounts that goes dark.
All right.
But I think with risk management, even though you can tell people and students it's so many times, I think 99% of the people still have to learn it the hard way, by actually losing
money.
a big amount of their net
Too
worth.
eager,
And
I guess.
I don't know. I've told so many people, like they started out, and the first thing that I tried to teach them was risk management. And at the end of the day, they all failed big time at least once. And then it's up to them whether they learn it or they keep failing with the risk management. But I still think that you can tell some people so many times, but they still have to learn it the hard way.
Like I still suffer from
100%.
like emotional tilt.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll like something I'm using my tongue. I'm using quotes here. Like something unlucky will happen to me because luck kind of goes both ways in the markets. But let's say like you just get stopped out by like fractions of a percent, and then price runs in your direction, and you're like, oh. And you're actually like, you get this emotional response, and you're like, fuck, I'll make it back in the next trade, and then you take a kind of a half-baked setup, and you're like, and you maybe over-risk a little bit, and then that gets out, and you're like, okay, now you're telling yourself I should walk away, and that, like, man, that happens to me once every few months, I would
100%.
say, and I'm thankfully at a point now where I'm getting better at walking away and just leaving it sit, right? But yeah, I mean, emotional tilt is something.
Human nature.
You hear about guys who've been trading for decades and they still suffer from tilt. So it's not emotional management and risk management. They're not something like when we talk about emotional management. You're not trying to you're not trying to be a robot. You're not trying to manage them to zero. What you're trying to do is account for your emotions and to work around them, right? Because as you said,
You're gonna feel the emotions anyways.
it's human
Yeah.
nature, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah. So you're not trying to eliminate them.
Yeah.
You're just trying to recognize them, account for them,
Yeah.
and work around that.
Yeah. Well said, I think.
Yeah, and it kind of validates why you're still mentioning. Are you trading profitable on a small account, but are you successful and you want to scale up your game, but you have the lack of capital? This is where Bright Funded steps in. Complete 2 phases, and there your gains on your account will grow enormously. Use those accounts to fund your own trading game. Risk management in a lot of
Single day,
content, so it's great. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Talking about emotions, let's have a quick look at the market. Let's say for the last year, it had a great momentum. It had a downside. It's kind of boring for the last few, let's say months. How do you handle that kind of market conditions?
I mean,
Do you- Yeah.
yeah, it's so. First of all, it's interesting that you say boring because I love these conditions. I'm a range trader. I do a lot of trading in ranges, and effectively, I mean, we had October last year was kind of the start of the big BTC move, the big expansion. I think didn't it do like a 2x over the next few months, and that topped out in whatever it was. I can't even remember now.
April, May?
Yeah,
April
something like that,
with a new all-time high. But since then, we've just basically been
Ranging,
ranging.
Which was to be expected at some point.
Yeah, I think so. But I actually think that the conditions haven't been super hard to trade. For sure, there's been chop, but I actually quite like that. I think range-bound price action could be some of the cleanest to trade because it's very rules-based. I actually find sometimes getting in on a strongly trending move can be
a lot harder. Yeah,
people are like,
100%.
"Oh, you just press the green button." But
where's your invalidation at? Yeah,
exactly. Where do you actually get in, and where are you wrong on that idea, and how do you manage your downside? I actually find sometimes with a range, it's like
There's
the
very
rules are
little room
set
for
out.
error. Yeah.
It's you have clear entries, clear invalidation. So
Yeah.
I've actually found it's interesting, and you're not wrong to say that it is boring because so many people are saying that. But I've actually found it. I've been enjoying it. I'm a boring market condition enjoyer, but it's been okay for me. But yeah, it's an interesting. I think it's a very interesting time to be in the markets. To be honest, and I'm not just saying that. Like if you look at the catalysts at play in 2024, let's say, right? So we had the halving was the first big one, right? You have Bitcoin pumping into the halving. You had sorry. Let me go back a month or two. ETF was the big one. Bitcoin ETF launched in January. You had the pre-ETF pump, the post-ETF pump, and then the next big one was the halving. Everyone's talking about the halving. We're going to have the halving pump. 2024 is going to be the year we're going to get 100K. And actually, that was kind of that was. I mean, the halving happened right around we're still around the mid-range, I think, end of April. But yeah, that wasn't the immediate bullish catalyst that maybe some people expected. I think people just expected that it would happen and then price would fly up. But if you look at previous halvings, that's never been the case.
Never happened.
No.
There's always post-halving chop. I think the first halving there was like 6 or 7 weeks of chop and then up only. Second halving there was like 18 or 19 weeks of chop and then up only. The third halving there was even longer. It was like 22 weeks of chop, right? Which is
I think the average was 120 days. I read it
Right.
somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we are only at 90 days, 80 days.
So yeah, I was looking at the last one was 5.5 months of basically choppy, even downtrending PA, and then it shot up. This one so far, because it was April.
April,
wasn't it?
I think it was April.
April, like the 17th or 18th or something. So we're like April, May, June, July, August. So we're 4 months, right? So. I mean, it's like people are losing their minds and saying, "Well, why halving was a nothing burger?" But actually, we're well within the parameters of previous halvings, and even within the expectancy that this will be. Like if you look previous cycles, like every cycle, the post halving chop gets longer, and the expansion is shorter. It's lesser, right? So if you look at the first pump, it was like 5,000% or something. You know, Bitcoin did like 50x off the lows, and then the second one was like 10x or something like that. I can't remember exactly, or 8x. And then the third one was even less. It was like 5x, like 600% or something like that. So this one, you know, you're talking about the expansions are becoming less severe, and the length of time it takes to get them is becoming longer. So I think we're still within those parameters.
Yeah.
I think people losing their minds and saying this time is different. I'm a big believer in this time is not different. Right, right.
Same
History
here.
doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. I really do think that. People have a tendency to get lost in the present moment and to think that, oh, actually no, this time there's too much happening this time, and this time everything's gonna happen differently, and you know. But actually, I think unless the market shows you that is definitively the case, it's usually safer to suggest that it's not going to be the case, right?
But all right, but here's a tricky remark. Isn't it the case that a lot of crypto influencers are putting those mindsets in our brains, especially for those traders who are, well, let's say not so experienced? So
they're just giving like bullish hopium and saying like, oh, we're
Right.
going to see 100K soon.
Right.
Yeah, but
And-
I mean that's, I think you get very good at filtering out that noise. If you've been on like crypto Twitter for like a month, I think you basically start to realize there are accounts that when you know, even recently, I'm not going to name names, but like BTC is trading at 70K.
Yeah.
There are accounts who are going 100K is
Yeah.
next, 100K
Yeah,
is
right,
programmed.
right.
And it drops to 65K, and they're saying, this is the pullback you've been waiting for, 100K later this month. Like,
Buy
get
now.
in now. Yeah, and then it's
Yeah.
down at 60K, and they're like, this is the dip of dips. You know, here it is. And then Bitcoin nukes to 49K, and they're like, well, you know, this is it. This is the, you know, now it's time to full send. And it's just like, what value are they providing? Right?
These
Yeah,
are the
right.
guys that when Bitcoin starts running again, they get the most engagement,
Yeah.
the most followers, and they just shamelessly keep on bull posting.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
want to say names, but
Yeah, I mean everyone knows about it, but I
Yeah.
think it's not. I don't sit at my desktop and see that and go, oh, you know, it doesn't bother me. I think it's just part of the game. It's just part of the industry. You kind of need those
sure.
guys waving the bull flag all the time and saying, oh, price is going to go up. You need those guys. It's the same in any community actually.
Yeah.
If you've ever been like, you know, if you ever hold like an alt bag and you're like, I wonder what the community for this alt bag are going to be like, and you go into that community. I mean, it's not like they're offering nuanced takes on either side. Like, well, this could go up or down. No.
Yeah.
They're all saying this thing is going to go
Yeah.
20, like
Yeah,
every single
that's
one.
very much
And if
true.
if you even suggest that might not happen, I'm not even talking about you say price might go down. If you say price won't go up enough, they're like, oh, get this
Yeah.
guy out of here. He's
Yeah.
just spreading FUD.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, I think you very quickly realize that the vast majority, I think we spoke earlier about CT and having to filter out, that's part of the noise you have to filter out.
Right. Right.
And then, you know, hopefully, like, you know, my intention, and I'm sure Yip's intention as well with being a content creator, is that we're kind of going to be on the other side of that coin, where we're kind of offering content that hopefully will help people and, you know,
Right.
let's say further analysis rather than, and I mean, I say that as someone who shit posts all the time, you know, and I absolutely love that. I unashamedly love that. But, you know, beyond that, let's say, I do think there is there's a core content output there that I think
Right.
is of some value, or else I wouldn't do it. So, I mean, yeah, you are right. There are definitely usually large accounts who just always call for higher, but I think that's just part of the game. That's just part of the industry. It's, you know, it's one of those things that you said it, you know, eventually they will be right, and eventually, you know.
Yeah, that's true. And their accounts will grow once they're right,
Yeah.
and they will take advantage of that, perhaps.
Yeah.
Let's
but I
call
mean,
it that way.
it's human nature as well. I mean, like, yeah, everyone wants the crypto market
Sure.
to go up. Everyone holds a bit of spot. Everyone wants it, you know.
Yeah.
Even when I'm at my most bearish, I don't really want Bitcoin to go back down to 20K. You know, I don't really want that. God knows my alt bags don't want that. So it's just one of those things. I think you just take it with a pinch of salt. When you see those accounts constantly posting, you know, 100K targets, 200K targets, you know, and I think you understand what they're there for. You understand the reasoning behind
Right.
that analysis, and you just kind of you move it to one side and you focus on the other stuff.
And at the end of the day, as a trader, it doesn't matter if Bitcoin goes to 100K or 50K or 60K. We can still trade every single day. So
Sure. Yeah.
it's just I don't even follow those accounts anymore, to be very honest. I just try to look at
Maybe a good thing, right?
Yeah, 100%, because
Yeah.
it blocks out a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Some I do still follow, just because they follow me
They're
back,
funny.
and I feel bad not following them. It's weird, but yeah, at the end of the day, like,
It's kind of throwing away your friends, right?
yeah,
Difficult.
yeah, kind of difficult.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's an easy way to block out all of that noise. Just unfollow them, and then realize that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if the market goes to 100K or 80K or 40K. You can still
Right.
trade the levels that
Right.
the market is providing you with. So, I don't know.
All right. Looking at the markets, been around since 2021.
Yeah.
A lot have happened since then. If we look at the markets right now, is there anything surprising for you? What's happening right now? What's your sentiment right now about the market?
Well, as I kind of alluded to a few minutes ago, we're at a. Will I stop?
Go on.
Yeah, we could just. Joran can easily edit this. Just continue with as I alluded to.
No. So, will I-
Yeah,
Go
just,
on. Okay.
yeah.
So, yeah, as I alluded to a few moments ago, I think we're actually at a really interesting point in the markets right now. I think there are a number of catalysts that are kind of at play, like massive macro catalysts that could have a huge impact on price one way or the other.
Right.
And it's, you know, if you're just looking at the market from a kind of a spectator point of view, it is very interesting to see all these, in some cases, external catalysts have a huge influence on price and where people see price going. We spoke about bullish catalysts, you know, the post-halving chop coming to an end and maybe getting a bit of a bid. You know, ETF involvement that has had positive and negative effects this year.
Yeah.
People talking about, you know, institutions coming to buy our bags, and then, you know, the ETH ETF happens and price kind of tops out by you know, double-digit percentage. And like that, you know, and then like obviously the grayscale thing has been very interesting to watch unfold over the last, let's say, few weeks. I'm trying to think when the ETH ETF launched, over a month ago, I suppose, at
Yeah.
this point.
100%.
But yeah, I mean, you just, you know, this situation where all of a sudden there was this huge amount of Ethereum coming onto the market, and grayscale, the grayscale holders being able to sell Ethereum that had been locked previously. I mean, it's so interesting to follow that in real time, and
Right, right.
to have like notifications on your phone for certain Twitter accounts that are following those wallets and saying, "Oh, okay, the wallets are moving now," you know, and
Yeah.
you're like, "Okay, I need to react based on this news that Grayscale are doing things," you know, and
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
I don't know, it's actually quite an interesting market dynamic to trade in. You look at bullish catalysts like the American election, where, you know, you had the Trump pump from whatever it was, from 59K to 70K, because he was talking about, you know, he was talking about the Bitcoin Federal Reserve, and it looked very likely like he was,
Right.
at the time, of course, he was against Biden, and it looked like he was going to wipe the floor with him, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course now he's stepped out and Kamala's in, and it's swinging back a little bit.
Did you read the last news about Trump? I just WhatsApped it to Yip yesterday.
Reddit.
He's starting his own crypto exchange.
Oh, really?
Trump.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. No? Didn't read about
I
it?
didn't read about
Yeah.
it. What's it
Oh.
going to be called?
I really don't know.
Okay.
He just mentioned it in a speech he did. So
I wonder
I
if
thought it
that's
was
just-
really funny.
I wonder if that's just one of those things that he says, you know?
Yeah, probably it is.
Probably it is, but it's well, worldwide news right now. So it was kind of
Okay.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah. I must look into that. I've actually been pretty switched off since I came here this morning. But yeah, I'll look into that. But yeah, it's an interesting place. I mean, you think about where crypto was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? 2022, the depths of the bear market. We had FTX.
Right.
We had Celsius. We had Voyager. We had 3 Hours Capital. We had Binance FUD every week.
Every week, yeah.
We had,
Yeah.
you know, like Tether FUD, like your stables are going to zero. USDC FUD, like everything's going to unpeg, everything's going to. We had the Luna collapse, right?
Right.
We,
Yeah.
literally, like the industry. I mean, in hindsight, maybe it wasn't, but at the time, I remember people were saying that this
It's over.
could be the end of
This is
crypto.
it.
People
Yeah.
were cashing out, like people were getting out of
Yeah.
crypto because it was just too much systemic risk, like the kind of risk that could bring the whole thing down. right? That's just 2 years ago. Like crypto is it's so fast moving. That was just 2 years ago, and now we're at a point where crypto is this major talking point in the biggest election in the world,
Right.
and has been for the last several months. And it's actually become like a focal point where both parties are kind of butting heads because, the perception at least is that the DNC are anti-crypto and Trump is presenting himself at the very least as the pro-crypto candidate.
Yeah, sure.
So now you have this, it's almost they're pivoting around this focal point, and that focal point is crypto, which is wild. You talk about mainstream adoption. How much more mainstream does it get?
Yeah. Yeah.
You look at guys like Gensler in the SEC. 2 years ago, it really looked like they were gonna send all our coins to zero. Everything was going to get classified as a security. They were going to be able to really impose their will on the nascent crypto market, and there would be a ton of regulations inbound. Now it almost seems like he's kind of had to reassess his approach because of various minor losses in several important cases. The Ripple case probably chief among them. And now we're at a point where he's actually kind of having to offer the palm branch or offer the olive branch? I can't remember what the saying is, to try and actually work with these crypto companies instead of just imposing his will upon them.
Yeah.
So I mean, we really have come a long way, and it's very easy to forget that. It's very easy to, and like Bitcoin it's 61K or something like that, right? It's still huge percentages off let's say the lows of 3 or 4 years ago. So it's like, I will say that the altcoin market is the one that it's the one that, because I think a lot of guys have exposure to that. So it's easy to I mean, there's a lot of doom and gloom in the market at the moment, isn't there? But actually, it's one of the most exciting points it's been in
100%.
since I've been trading it.
Yeah. The funny thing is, normally I'll give Bart a signal that it's kind of time to wrap up. Bart is not here.
I was about to give you the signal. I was doing like this, but you weren't looking at me, Oko.
I thought you would show off with your watch, but
No, I was trying to signal you.
It's really nice, Yip.
Thank you very much, Oko. I hope the viewers like it as well.
yeah, for sure. I guess so. Let's go to the last part, and this is one I really don't want to forget to put in the show, because we as the Unpackers are always looking to level up our game, always learning about guests, always learning from Yip, but we want to learn the trick, and I don't know what the trick is, but someone knows what the trick is. So we have a new format. We have a question for you to kind of summarize, I guess, what you've been telling. And that the question is: can you give us the insight of the game that changed your game?
So I will say, first of all, there's no golden goose, right? There's no hidden.
It's a very personal question.
Yeah. There's no one size fits all to that. I think
that's true.
So often we see these gurus on CT, or these guys come along and they say, I am the guy who knows. I am the guy. I've pulled back the curtain. I've peered beyond. I've seen what's really going on underneath the hood.
Right.
And I think that is just, it's such a load of baloney.
Shitty engine.
Yeah. Yeah. There really isn't. There are so many ways of engaging and interacting with the market in a way that you come out with more money than you entered.
Right.
There is no one size fits all approach, right? There are many ways to do it. I guess, I don't, in that sense, I don't really have an answer other than to say that, speaking from my own journey and how I got to it, I put in the work, right?
Yeah.
And that might seem like a real cop-out. Everyone puts in the work. But, I was in a position where I was working a full-time job in a very time-intensive industry, right? I was an investment fund lawyer, right?
Yeah.
Those aren't known for short hours. It's not like we were knocking off at 4 p.m. on a Friday. We were doing 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day. But I was using my lunch breaks. I was using my weekends. I was using my evenings. I was grinding as hard as I possibly could in the time allocation that I had, right, to get to where I was, to where I was.
Yeah, let's go on.
I was grinding in the time that I had to get to the point where I was, comfortable in the markets. I had a level of market literacy.
Right.
Like something I spoke about on stream recently is I play a lot of chess. I play a lot of online chess, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been playing for, over a decade now. But it's gotten to the point where I'll look at a board and I'll pretty quickly be able to ascertain like, what's going on in the position.
Right. Right.
Be able to ascertain like who's winning, who's losing, what's going on, what are the main ideas at play here, what's happening, right? And I call it like it's board literacy, right? But that didn't come immediately. That didn't come in my first year.
Right.
Didn't come in my second year. But after enough time in the game, it came, right? I think about that now with charts. I
Right.
think about that
Right.
in trading, right? It's analogous. Where at the start I really had no idea what I was doing, right? But over time, I put in the hours, I put in the work.
Yeah.
And now it gets to the point where I'll look at a chart and within seconds, I'll understand what's going on, where the levels are, what I'm looking at, what I need to see to do this, what I need to see to do that. And that's a level of literacy that only comes with time and hard work.
Right.
So I guess if there is an answer to that question, it's that nothing
Well-
beats hard work.
Right. That's it. Thanks. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the information you shared. And that's kind of the end of this episode, I guess. Thanks.
No worries, guys. Thanks very much for having me on. A pleasure.